Welcome to our Bookish Gossip Session Live. We come every other Monday. So we gather every other Monday at 12 noon East for a fun gossip, book news, community tea, just all the things. We talk about it here live. Now, normally the trio is together, but we all have to band together to write a letter to Laura's employment to let them know, hey, 12 o'clock for 1 hour. We need this time to talk gossip. So it's just Francesca and I today. Francesca, what's going on?
Hey. Not much. I mean, I had the most relaxing weekend, which I don't usually do. So I am nice and relaxed today, enjoying all the things.
Yes, we love nice and relaxed. I had a chill weekend. I won't say it was overly relaxed, just doing the usual schmoogle.
Yeah.
No work, so that was good. But we have lots of gossip and tea to get into. I have the trusty index card, everyone. So let's get into it. So the first thing we want to really talk about is the fact that the Missouri Secretary of State has withdrawn state funding for the digital library catalog. Now, in a statement, and this is from the local Missouri paper, The Independent, the Secretary of State is pausing all funding to the digital library online catalog, right? Specifically Overdrive. I know lots of us are familiar with Libby, Overdrive has some other apps and all the things. Essentially, they are pausing funding because they are concerned about children being able to access digital material that has adult themed content in there. Now, Francesca, I mean, this sounds wild in itself because I'm like, this is a digital catalog. So I'm like, if you have access to the internet, in my opinion, it means you can have access to a wide variety of things. What are your thoughts on the Missouri state essentially saying we are not funding any online library material?
Couple of thoughts. First off is in today's society, like that is how the majority of people access books is digitally. So yes, they could say that there's still going to be the books, like the physical copies at the library, but that is not how the majority of people consume books nowadays, especially with how easy it is to access ebooks. I'm not 100% familiar with Overdrive. I do use Libby and Hoopla, so I do know those. I know with Libby, you easily send that ebook to your Kindle or whatever device, and you can just start reading right away. So I think that libraries really rely on digital catalogs. Digital catalogs are also great for libraries that offer non-resident cards. I am not sure where Missouri stands on that, but I have a card for the New Orleans library system and I access their books and they get money from me, yearly membership, and I only access books via digital. So I think the digital aspect is something that should be funded no matter what. And I think that's going to have detrimental effects. And also, libraries are already underfunded to begin with. Like they're already struggling. Having any funding, it is tragic, regardless of anything. Plus, I mean, if kids have access to the internet, they'll have access to these things. And I think it should always fall on parents to kind of monitor what their kids are doing. So I think it's almost impossible to monitor these things outside, like have an outside entity, whether it's a librarian, a teacher, or whatever. You should be doing that as a parent because that's the only way it's going to get caught. So
100%. That's essentially what I was going to say. I think libraries are underfunded as is. And I know the big conversation has been about banning books in schools. However, this will affect everyone.
Mhm.
I use the library, but I use the digital catalog more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a whole bunch of physical books behind me. But believe it or not, I actually utilize Libby specifically. I will use Overdrive depending on what state library card I'm using, because yes, I too have access to different state library cards because they're funded differently and we all don't have the same things. So the fact that Missouri is pulling funding from Libby, that means if you watching live in Missouri, or if you have friends or family living there who use the Libby app or Overdrive app to listen to your audiobooks, to download your ebooks, to access subscriptions like magazines, Ancestry, and all the things, you are going to be affected. I don't know what it is they expect from Overdrive to provide to say, we won't let your children access this. But again, it is affecting the general population. And I stand on the hill of parents need to parent. Okay. Can we parent? Can we get back to the days
Yes.
when you would search your children's bag, you asking them questions, you chaperone them to places? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was embarrassed because my dad was like further down the lane and I'm at a party here, but I'm like, sir, if you're coming, just stay down there. Do not come up here and embarrass me. So I'm like, point where we're no longer cool parents, we actually embarrass our children.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're covering some of the bookish news and gossip. We just chatted about the Missouri state not funding Overdrive and Libby, continuing into the government interfering in our lives. Because I'm gonna tell you this, when I moved to America, I felt like this country was freedom, freedom, freedom. You know, I live my life how I want to live my life. Or, you know, you have your family how you want to have your family. Well, guess what? The government is interfering some more. The White House this past week has passed an executive order defunding, essentially, the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Now, the source material for this is the American Library Association. So if you're looking at the screen, I did a screen grab from the ALA, and they put a statement out. So this statement came in response to the Friday night executive order calling for the elimination of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the nation's only federal agency for America's libraries. So following that statement, of course, the ALA came out and said, look, you know, obviously by eliminating this, you're reducing funding again. So remember, states fund libraries, but also you rely on federal funding as well. Listen, we pay federal taxes, all of us, all right? So we want some of that money back in our state and our community. So of course, they talk about the summer reading program for kids, right? You might know in your local communities, I know from mine, we get local funding as well, but you also rely on federal funding. And when the money comes short, you're asking local businesses to help fund this stuff. So again, they mentioned these are some of the things that are going to be affecting high-speed internet access for people who don't have access to high-speed internet. I mean, not everyone can afford it. Libraries subsidize this. Employment assistance, that is another thing that the libraries are funding. But again, the summer reading programs really broke my heart. The homework assistant programs and just all the things, especially if you live in a rural area, that you know, these are the services that are going to be affected. More than 1.2 billion in-person patrons visit American libraries annually. Let me say that again. 1.2 billion in-person interactions. And I will be honest and say I'm the person who probably visits the library just a handful of times a year because I live on the digital services that we talked about earlier. So Fran, I mean, how are you feeling now that we have this executive order essentially blocking all funding for all libraries and just closing down the Institute of Museum and Library Services?
Yeah, I mean, back to what I was saying, I mean, they're already underfunded. And I think what people a lot of times don't realize is, like you said, they do way more than just provide books. They have so many services, they have so many programs. And I think that helps parents, it helps the community in general. And that stuff doesn't happen without money. So that money has to be there for them to be able to give these services and fill in those gaps where people need some help, whether it's having a program that helps kids actually stay busy or whatever so that they don't get in trouble. It's a healthy environment for kids to go on good paths. So I definitely think that those kind of things should be funded. And I think also something to highlight is I think there's a sense of a librarian's job is like they're just standing there and doing nothing. There is so much work that goes into being a librarian. There is so much education that goes into it. There is so much like there's cataloging. There's all of this information that they have to know in order to put a book on the shelf and then be able to give you information about it. So like they already have a stressful enough job as it is. I don't think they need extra stress.
By not being funded. Okay.
Yeah.
We are already in a state where teachers have drives. You know, I'm always paying attention online on social media. I want to buy out the supplies that teachers need. I mean, we're going to get to the point where we won't even have librarians physically showing up.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, supplies is one thing, but then cutting manpower is just really sad.
Yeah.
If you're watching us live, I mean, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know your thoughts and feelings on the Institute of Museum and Library Services being completely shut down. If you're not familiar with what this does, essentially, it is the branch in the federal government that disperses money to the state governments and state libraries so that you can get your services, all the extra stuff, all the good stuff that your state isn't able to fund by itself. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. But if you're also watching the replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well on your thoughts. So share them in the comments. Okay, according to my trusty index card, next up, we need to talk about something very interesting. We're shifting from libraries because we're just talking about everything that is happening with the libraries, from the state not funding Overdrive and Libby anymore to now the federal government just completely eliminating that department for libraries.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about the big bad wolf, which is Amazon. So there's been chatter online on the social media streets. Actually, let me share this one first. We've pulled screen grabs from threads where folks are essentially saying, do not cancel Kindle Unlimited. It's only going to harm indie authors. If you want to make Amazon pay or suffer, read more books on Kindle Unlimited. That will make them pay more for indie authors and the books that are on the platform. There's also authors sharing, as an author, my income is heavily reliant on Kindle Unlimited. And unfortunately, like many others in the same boat, the boycott has caused a huge, big hit to my page reads. And then we also had author Sarah McLean coming out and saying, and I found this to be an interesting take, cancel Prime, keep K, right, and contain multitudes. So I found that a very interesting take. Again, people are just very, very, very passionate about canceling Amazon, but also by extension, Kindle Unlimited. There are folks online asking to explain the KU boycotts because they're seeing some people saying it's going to hurt Bezos and it's going to hurt Amazon, but then struggling to see how it will affect them and not the authors. I mean, Fran, I know you read a lot on Kindle Unlimited. I read from Kindle Unlimited, but not as much. Again, I wish Laura was here because I know she reads on the platform too. But what are your initial thoughts and gut reactions on folks wanting to X out Amazon essentially, but then recognizing the authors we know and love and new authors we're discovering through Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about Kindle Unlimited is it gives people the ability to discover authors and feel free to try out an author without investing specific money. And at the same time, it's still a fair transaction in the sense that the author will get paid for the pages you read. So even if you didn't like the book and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to stop here, they're still going to get paid for what you read. And it does give you that freedom. So I think that it has created this environment where people are able to discover new authors, which I absolutely love. And the other thing about it is the fact, money-wise, we have to be realistic. Amazon is where most authors get their money, whether it's Kindle Unlimited or not, but Amazon is where most authors get their money. Period. End of story. I have never heard an author say that there is even a close second in terms of where they get their money. So that is a reality. So if you're going to cancel out something, it will impact tons of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. It will hurt their income. And I think that the point that I think it was N.M. Patel that made, just if you want to hurt Bezos, what you actually need to do is read more on Kindle Unlimited, because again, you are paying a flat fee. And what they rely on is the fact that most of us will read other things. And for example, I think it works out in terms of what you would normally pay for a book. I don't know what they get paid for page reads, but in terms of what you would pay for a book, it works out to like you having to read 3 or 4 books on Kindle Unlimited for the month, and it kind of pays for what you're paying for the membership. So if you take it that way, just simply make sure that you're reading most of your books on Kindle Unlimited, and you're actually sticking it to Amazon in that case, because they will have to pay out those page reads. And that means that if they pay out more than what you're paying for your membership, it's a loss. So
yeah, I mean, I'm of two minds about this, because yes, I understand we want to get rid of Amazon, we want to get rid of Jeff Bezos. We don't like these people. We don't want to support
gotta be
them.
realistic though.
But here's the thing: as a content creator who has been creating book content on the internet for 8+ years, I'm gonna tell you this. When I started a book blog and I canceled it, and then I started another one and I canceled it, and then I started Biblio Lifestyle, and we are here today. And when I started, I exclusively, and I know I told you this, I exclusively posted bookshop.org links, for example. before bookshop.org, because I started a couple months before they launched bookshop.org, Biblio Lifestyle, Libro FM actually had like a book store link generator system that they were kind of using because we had no alternatives. And then bookshop.org dropped like 4 months later, if my memory serves me right. For 3 years, I kid you not, people, if you are OG newsletter subscribers, if you were following me back then, you know, I exclusively posted bookshop.org links and no one clicked them. I did playlist for Libro FM. Nobody clicked them. Mm-hmm. Then I decided, after not being able to pay for anything because I wasn't making any money, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this Amazon thing after all. And I wrote a lengthy email, which I can screen grab and share with y'all one day, saying, I need to switch to Amazon, y'all. I need to start sharing Amazon links. I'll do both links and we go from there. And guess what? Everyone clicked the Amazon links. No one clicked the bookshop links. So me making $100 a month from Amazon, I was like, okay, yes, this can pay for my hosting. This can pay for one platform or something. No one clicked the bookshop links. No one.
Yeah.
And now I stopped posting bookshop links. And then I'm getting messages, why are you not posting bookshop links? Because you're not clicking them.
Yeah.
So I love how we love to virtue signal. Okay, I love it. We love to virtue signal, but the reality of the situation is you're not buying books on Amazon. And it's okay. It's okay, right? But just acknowledge that's the reality. So I know that people online saying, look, we're going to cancel Amazon and KU, but they're secretly reading that stuff at home. Who's going to check you? Who's going to check you?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reality is there is no other alternative. I know people will say, go to Kobo. They will say, go to this platform, go to that platform. Authors have been on these platforms.
Yes.
And the longer you are in the content creation space, the more authors you interview, the more authors you meet, the more you get involved in the business of books, you realize if all the people who online were saying they were buying books from bookshop.org, if all the people online who were saying they buy books from Libro FM, authors would be fine.
Yeah.
Amazon wouldn't even be a question, but the reality is it's not the reality. So unfortunately, when you do stop reading on Kindle Unlimited, you are hurting the authors. Facts. If you don't want to shop on Amazon for other stuff and you want to cancel your Prime, by all means. But we are book people. We're here to support authors. You're not supporting authors when you stop reading on KU. I'm going to just let you know. What's going to happen is authors are going to go back to their regular day jobs and they're going to stop writing. And then you're going to be like, where's this author at? They don't have the time. They don't have the time. They don't have the time to be
working day job or money.
So it is what it is. If you want to support the KU boycott, I support you. I support you 100%. I'm here for you. I'm not doing it, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you all I'm canceling KU. I'm not going to do it. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually co-sign everything you just said because I've been blogging since 2011. And yes, I posted Amazon links. I also posted bookshop.org links, Libro FM links. When there was still book depository links. Like I have Apple Books link. Like I've posted all the links. And a lot of times throughout that time, I would actually literally track the interactions and check it every so often because it's a lot of work to gather 10 links per book. So I would actually look at that. Like, are people actually clicking on it? And statistically, never failed. Nobody clicks. Kobo. Nobody's clicking those Kobo links.
And understand, we're not talking about buying. We're just talking about clicking. So I just felt like I needed to make this clear. We're not talking about buying. Just clicking, just giving us that interaction. So I'm saying
the Amazon links are getting clicked. They may not be buying either, but they're getting clicked. So that means that is where the attention is going, which is facts. And so I don't want to hurt authors. So we're here to support authors and make sure they have a career. And at the end of the day, they're not writing for they do write for the pleasure, but they got to make money. They got to pay their bills. Otherwise they can't continue doing the work. So we got to support them.
You can always rest assured, I'm going to tell you the truth. I am not canceling it. I'm not virtue signaling to anybody. And this is a girl who used to work with indie bookstores all the time. I also recognize economics. It's easy to pay one flat subscription and read as much books as you can read.
Yeah.
Buying books and subscribing to stuff is a privilege. And now with all libraries being defunded, ooh, it's going to be mad. It's going to be mad. But anyways, don't be afraid of us. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, okay?
By the way, I'm still going to maintain my Kindle Unlimited Romance Book Club where we pick a Kindle Unlimited book every month. So there you go.
Join her book club. Join her book club. All right. If you are just joining us, welcome. We're doing our Bookish gossip session live. We are missing our third, Laura, who, again, we're going to petition to write letters to her work to say we need our girl every other Monday to talk gossip at 12 noon Eastern for an hour. But anyways, we're going to continue on. We've covered the state of Missouri not paying for Overdrive and Libby. So if you or your friends live there, I am sorry, but you probably won't be able to be accessing stuff on there soon. They're not funding it. We also talked about the White House eliminating the Institute of Museum and Library Services, aka the federal government will no longer be funding stuff like summer programs, employment assistance programs, high-speed internet, just all the other perks outside of the books that the taxpayer money can help fund. Yeah, they're saying we're not about that life anymore. And we were just talking about KU boycotts. Now, on lighter note, or a more, I guess you would say, happier note, I'm happy to report that the book industry is still alive and doing very well. And that is what is being reported from the London Book Fair. Now, I got this reporting from Publishers Weekly. London Book Fair was just last week. I think it was the 12th to the 14th, thereabouts. And there were lots of books that were being snagged, lots of rights. The American contingency showed up and showed out in London. It's one of like the top 3 spots for rights acquisition. So I just want to share with you some of the North American rights and the English language rights that were acquired at the London Book Fair. I'll include a link to Publishers Weekly in the video after the live, just so you can read the whole rundown. But for example, North American rights to adapt Rebecca Yarros' Hyperion series, that was acquired at the London Book Fair. North American rights to Peregrine Hill by Nina Mont. North American rights to Jessica Curry's upper middle grade fantasy duology, Monster and Apprentice. We also have North American rights to Miss Archer, the genre-bending debut by Pulitzer Prize finalist and screenwriter Jordan Harrison. This went down in a 13-way auction, okay? So I already know expectations is going to be high on that one. But then I'm also excited for all my Agatha Christie fans. Come. HarperCollins acquired World English rights to a new, not yet titled Miss Marple novel, okay? This will be written by Lucy Foley, and this is coming through the Agatha Christie Limited. Now, in case you're not familiar, the Agatha Christie Limited, which is based in London, manages all the Agatha Christie world rights. They are working with Sophie Hannah, who has been doing the Poirot novels, which I absolutely loved. It was also a blast chatting to Sophie about all things Agatha Christie. I chatted with her for the pod, and also just her getting the permission from the estate to rewrite the books and how she writes the books. So now I'm excited to hear now that we're going to have Lucy Foley writing the Miss Marple novels. So it's really exciting. There's lots to look forward to. And there is a quote from the publisher that I will read to say, the novel, the publisher said, and I quote, will feature the legendary detective Miss Marple, whom Agatha Christie first introduced to the world in a series of short stories, and the novel The Murder at the Vicarage, published in 1930. So this Agatha Christie book is set for fall 2026. Rights were snagged up last week at the festival. So really exciting things. We also have One World taking rights to Kali Fajardo Anstein's next novel, Mountains South, in a 2-book deal. I'm a huge fan of this author, okay? She's bomb. She's doing a thing. We also have Avon acquiring rights to Lexi Ryan's Night Tide trilogy in a 3-book deal. This was also very big. And then the last rights I'm going to mention, because I'm going to get into some other drama, is St. Martin's Publishing secured US rights to 4 novels by Jay Kristoff. Like I said, we're going to get into the Jay Kristoff drama in a whole other segment. But needless to say, the London Book Fair was busy last week. Some of these deals were kind of pre the actual book fair, but the book fair is kind of like the final deal making ground, but there were lots of deals that were made last week. Again, I'll include a link after the live to the Publishers Weekly article where they kind of rounded up all of the big deals that were made at the fair. I mean, it sounds like publishing is in good shape, right?
I think so. And some of those I'm excited for. So I can obviously that Miss Marple, I'm like,
I mean, look, I love Poirot. I love all the other Christies, but listen, Miss Marple, my G. Yes, we love Miss Marple. We love Miss Marple. So I'll definitely be reading and covering that. Okay. It was such a blast chatting to Sophie Hannah, I'm telling you. Just all things Poirot, from her first Christie that she read to old school Christie marketing. It was very interesting talking about the evolution. But let us know your thoughts. I mean, did I mention any books, any rights, anything coming out that you're excited about? Again, you know, these deals are aimed to this year, so odds are we're not seeing books till probably next year or the year after and so on. But again, exciting news for books. Okay, let's get into the drama. Because I started with the London Book Fair, and I mentioned that at the book fair, St. Martin's Publishing secured US rights to 4 novels by Jay Kristoff. So let's just get into the Jay Kristoff. First of all, I do want to mention that there is a content creator on YouTube. Her name is Jess Owens. I will be including a link in the video's description after the live to Jess Owens's page, and specifically her video where she really breaks down just Jay Kristoff and just everything that is problematic with this author, from cultural appropriation to cultural appropriation, anti-Semitism, things with their co-authors, and just all the things. I mean, Francesca, I know you know some of this history. Let's get into the Jay Kristoff.
I mean, oh my God, he's had history for years and years and years and years. And I feel like it never hurts his career, you know, because every time there's a new issue, all of the old stuff comes up and he still gets a 4-book deal. So like, he's living his best life and everything is fine. I actually had I had gotten an arc of one of those controversial books with a lot of the anti-Semite tropes in them. It was Nevernight. I had gotten an arc of that book, and I hated the writing so much that I didn't even get to the problematic stuff. So that wasn't even in my review. I was just like killing all of the things that I didn't like about how pretentious the writing was and like all of these things. And then you start to hear about some of these other things that were included in it, which were terribly problematic. And I feel like he just always skates by, and then there's a new drama that comes up, and then again, he gets the sales, he gets the contracts, and people still buy the books. I don't know if people still buy the books because they don't know about the drama, but I actually feel that they do know about the drama, because again, this drama is always recycled, and even as the drama gets recycled, he hits the bestseller list. So
yeah, I mean, if you are watching and you're not familiar, again, I will include a link to the video by Jess Owens. But the book in question, because I watched her video, the book with all the anti-Semitism in there is Wicked Saints. I'm not gonna, like refresh what she had said, but basically, again, if you watch her video, she breaks it down by line. She also got messages from readers who watch her videos and follow her and saying, hey, yeah, I read this. This is why it's problematic, especially in the case of the DM she got. That person was Jewish. So they were sharing like, this is a problem. These are the tropes. This is not okay. But here's my thing on problematic authors. And I'm just going to say this because we've been covering some of these problematic authors ourselves during our gossip sessions live. Reason for you to come watch every other Monday. But it goes back to what I was saying about virtue signaling on the Amazon of it all. People are going to say what they're going to say. But again, who's going to check them at home? They're buying the books. They're reading the books. I remember, what was her name again? Janine Cummings, when her book came out. Listen, I will be the first to say, I read the book. I read an early copy and I was writing a review about it. I was saying, man, this was good. This was good. This was good. And then people explained to me why it wasn't good. Because at that point, honestly, I really didn't understand all the tension, like with the southern border and stuff like that. Because I remember it was like early in me moving here. It really was. I was probably living here for like 2 years at that point. And some folks reached out to me and they were telling me about, why it's problematic. I was like, oh, damn. So then I updated my thing. And I just remember seeing week after week it being on a bestseller list, bestseller list, bestseller list. I had people in my real life telling me they're reading the books. I'm like, y'all didn't hear about this? And they're like, no. So people in my real life had no clues, but they were just reading the book anyway. So I'm just saying, I think he is problematic, but he will forever, and not just him, all other problematic authors will forever just get these book deals anyway.
Yeah.
But we want to hear from you. Let us know in the chat. I mean, do you read this author's books? Do you think it's problematic? Maybe you think it's cancel culture. I don't know. But that's also another thing. I don't think cancel culture is real.
No. Also, I think a point to what you were saying about your friends is that for us that are in the bookish online space, we feel like, oh, this drama and this thing is all over and everybody knows about it. But the book online community is actually so small in terms of like the actual reading community, like who's buying books. So I feel like we may think that something is really a big deal, but at the end of the day, not a lot of people know about it because people are just going to a bookstore or ordering something on Amazon because they just browse what's on the bestseller list or however they pick their books, but they're not part of any online community. And that's the majority of readers. So they will never know about any of these things. And they're just going to continue reading whatever either A is popular in its hitting list or whatever they find interesting. I mean, personally, I don't think Jay Kristoff's writing is good in general. So that would be a reason not to pick it up, but you know, he's still out there doing his thing. So yeah, nobody ever gets canceled.
I don't think so, but let us know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think authors get canceled for real, for real? I mean, again, I don't think so. I think things happen, but then it goes quiet and then it will pop back up. So yes, maybe for a minute, for a brief minute, like it has people reworking things and redoing things, but I promise it will come back around. It will come back around. But anyways, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're doing our bookish gossip session live. We're just talking about all the book news, the bookish gossip, the tea, just everything that is anything book community. We're discussing it with you live. Again, we do this every other Monday, 12 noon Eastern time. It's like a lunchtime live. So mark your calendars and join us next time. Tell a friend to tell a friend. But also, if you're watching the replay of this, replay crew, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Let us know in the comments what you're thinking and how you're feeling. Again, we all don't have to agree. All right, next up, this is more gossip and thing, but I do want us to talk about it. And it is the Oathbound Book 3 release and just everything around the latest book in the series. Now, on book threads, I did some screen grabs from some folks online. One person in particular said Barnes & Noble in Deptford, New Jersey has no table dedicated to the New York Times bestselling series Oathbound, but they have insane displays for Onyx Storm. Are you kidding me? Then we had another person saying, at my Barnes & Noble, Onyx Storm signs are still up. Not just signs, but a window and an end cap, but no kind of fanfare for Oathbound, and it was already on sale. This is so annoying. I also want to say there were other people saying they show up to the bookstores and no one knows. Oathbound, what are you talking about? Yeah. Then there are books in boxes in corners somewhere. You know, it didn't get a front table prominent display for a big book coming out. You know how they do for the big books. So people were very, very upset that Oathbound did not receive the fanfare. Again, it's comparing it to Onyx Storm, which has been out for a hot minute. So, Francesca, I know you have some thoughts on this happening, but I think the big thing, and I know you're really going to get into it, is the fact that, hey, YA books don't get the same treatment as adult fiction, contemporary fiction, and those big titles. I'm sorry, YA is still the redheaded stepchild. I'm guessing you agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that also comes with the stigma because yes, it is technically by the name, it is intended for a young adult audience, but let's be real, it's going to be adult, especially adult women buying a lot of those books. So that is the market. Yes, there's also the young adults, but a lot of those people buying the books and making young adult, especially young adult fantasy, big. Now, and that also doesn't get the recognition in the stores and whatever. That's been like that forever. Now, another thing is they keep comparing this to Onyx Storm. And I don't want to say that I don't think it deserved more exposure because it totally did. But this is something that they do all the time. So I think that they probably could have done better. However, I don't see them from a business mentality, capitalist system. They're not going to put away their Onyx Storm, because I don't know what the numbers are, because I don't look at that stuff. But as you can put the most popular weight release that is not like a Sarah J. Maas, which I guess people don't consider her anymore. But that aside, you cannot put the biggest YA title next to how much Onyx Storm or Fourth Wing is selling. There is just no, even any other adult fantasy, nothing is going to compare to that. So they're not going to take away their nice display for the cash cow that is that series right now. That series is keeping the doors open for a lot of these businesses. They're going to display it. Now, I think that they should have had better organization, especially when there is like one big release that is a well-known series. So yes, probably that should have been something that Barnes & Noble did better. But historically, Barnes & Noble is not good at any of these things. So I am not surprised. But yeah, I think in general, I would not be surprised, because why it's just never their focus, you know? It just is. It's never been.
No, it's not. Now, for my point, I'm also going to go back to, again, the original argument, because the thing is, and I hate to break it, if you're watching this and, you're just an avid reader, but you want to stay in the know, so you tune in to us to kind of hear what's going on. Let me tell you, the business of book is messy. It is not what you think it is, right? It's kind of like, I remember being, what I say, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just very optimistic and feeling like, all books get treated the same.
No.
Wrong. All books get the same marketing budget.
No.
Wrong. All books within the same category, everyone has their moment to shine in the sun. No. There are so many books that come out each week. I know we're excited for our favorites, and I love that for us, okay? Because that's part of books and reading. We want it to be fun. We want to have things to look forward to. But the reality is things aren't treated the same. YA isn't treated the same as adult. Nonfiction isn't treated the same as fiction. Cookbooks get a whole separate thing. Deciding who has events and everything is just very different. Am I sad about it? Yeah, I'm sad, because it was a big title. It was a big release, and you want it to have that fanfare. You want it to have its moment in the sun. But that is coming from a fan perspective, not a business perspective. And the truth is, they can't keep Onyx Storm on shelves and tables. They are flying off. Yeah. And as a person who grew up in a family of business owners, who also had my own business at one time, you also know that there's certain products that keep your lights on, that pay your rent. And I'm telling you right now, Onyx Storm is paying a whole bunch of rent. Yes. So I am sad that, yes, Earthbound did not get its moment in the sun. But guess what? We have some good news, people. It is #1 on the New York Times best-selling list, okay? Yes. It beat out Mockingjay. Yes, The Wild Robot, people are still talking about it. It beat that. It beat the Wimpy Kid Diary series thing. It beat Harry Potter. All right. And yes, Harry Potter's still there. Don't at me. Yes, it's still there. Talk to the people who are still buying the books. You see what I'm talking about? Talk to the people who are still buying the books. Even though they want us to believe JK is cancelled. I mean, no. Yeah. Still buying the books. But the good news is Earthbound did get #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And to consider the fact that it was just treated as a redheaded stepchild, look, I love it for it. Yeah. I love it for it. So, yeah, it's just the sad reality of books and book selling and publishing. The business of it is very different and separate from us readers and just how excited we are for it. We hope they'll learn from this, though. And
historically, no.
But let me be hopeful.
I am the pessimist here because I have seen it too many times. Like, we have screwed up so many times that you're like, this is the time. This is the time that next time they'll think of it. No.
I'm trying to be optimistic for the people. I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic. But yeah, but anyways, let us know your thoughts in the comments on just the release and the whole rollout for Oathbound. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're watching live, let us know as well, because yes, I think it should have received a better rollout, but guess what? It's #1. So at the end of the day, that's what matters. Okay, we have 2 more things to kind of cover, but I just want to interject real quick and say, we are going live on Substack after this for the after show. All right. So if you haven't already, there's a link to Substack in the video's description. If you find one of us, you'll find both of us. You'll also find Laura, who again, we are missing because her job doesn't want her to be great. And they're giving her extra work at the last minute so she can't come live with us, right? So find Laura to sign up to Laura's page as well, but we're going live after this for an after show. We're going to talk about what we're actively reading, what we're watching on television, and just more little TTT. So come on over there. But the next thing we want to cover is something that happened this weekend. We want to talk about the Barnes and Noble Festival. All right. Now, Laura was big on talking about this. So it was a 2-day thing. They had it on the 14th. So this is the first one, actually. So they had it on the 14th and they had it on the 15th. This happened at Barnes and Noble Union Square. That's in New York City. And it was a fun 2-day thing. Apparently, people were very excited about it. And they're like, oh, they should do this more often, or this should be worldwide, meaning nationwide. Here's a reality of the situation. These bookish events, this was just this one store. It's large. It has enough space to do all the things. It's also New York City. How did you feel about this event? I mean, people are saying that Laura was saying essentially BookCon was the version of this. Like BookCon was the big thing when they would promote certain things. As a person who was in the city and you know about all these New York events, I mean, what are your thoughts on Barnes and Noble doing this, specifically the Union Square store, and readers' call for more events like this?
I think something that people should realize is that events like this, even though this is at a Barnes and Noble doesn't have like stock of all these things. So they have to put together an event. And in something like this, they have to work with the publishers. And there is cost in lugging all these books to any kind of event. So anytime you do something in New York City, is easier. Most publishers are in New York City. Their warehouses are in New York City. If they have to lug a bunch of books to a bookstore and they just got to lug those back because they have some left over, it's no big deal. So New York City is always going to be the easier point of least resistance for any book event to happen. Some people may not like that, but that is just the reality. And the reason why a store like the Barnes and Noble at Union Square would work is the fact that it is very large. So it does have the space to accommodate, because those things get really packed. You have to be able to accommodate people. There's fire codes, there's all this stuff. So that, has to be taken into account. You can't do those at a little small indie bookstore. But also, New York City is very expensive. So it's not like the publishers are just going to put together something and pay for space. So it kind of like all works out, but it's not easily replicated, in my opinion. And also, book events are very expensive to put on in general. So they're not a lucrative business where people are really getting a ton for all the work that goes into that. So many over the years have come and gone, like Laura was saying, BookCon. The big one, obviously, for publishers was BEA, where they actually interacted with influencers and booktubers and all this stuff, and actually also with librarians and booksellers, etc. So those events have decreased over the years. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is they're expensive to put on. They're expensive for the organizers. They're expensive for the publishers. It's all around expensive. So when you're thinking about how you're going to use your marketing budget, which is also every year smaller and smaller. We were just talking about defunding the libraries, but hey, publishers' marketing departments are also getting defunded by the corporate decisions, so they don't have the budgets. Like, we enjoy certain things as readers, and we would love for all these wonderful things to be available to us. But at the end of the day, money is a factor. Convenience is a factor. So things like this are able to be put on in New York City, and a lot of other people are not going to have access to them. And that's just a reality.
Especially for me, I've never lived in New York City. I live in Florida, the furthest point possible. Like, help me out here. Oh my gosh. But yes, I definitely co-sign. Organizing any event it's a lot of man hour, woman hour, time hours. It's a lot. It really is a lot. You really don't get a big return on your investment. Even as someone, me, who organize virtual events, listen, it really doesn't do it. All I'm going to say to anyone watching, if you have a bookstore, whether it's indie, Barnes and Noble, anyone, and you live near somewhere that puts on events, or someone putting on a virtual event, show up. Because when you don't show up and people, don't support in whatever way, shape, or form, they go away. And then you see things happening somewhere else, and you're like, what about me? They just can't afford to do it. And it's a sad state of things. But That was
a tip that I would actually give to people if they want to support more things like this happening is when you are going into a bookstore, like you were saying, that is having any kind of signing. So obviously, maybe you're not going to have a big event like this one, but chances are somewhere within driving distance, there's going to be a small bookstore that's going to host some author event or something where you can get to it. When you're there, a lot of times not always, but a lot of times they will have a requirement that you buy the book from that author that is participating. Fine. But that is not enough for that event to be successful financially. So when you go there, buy something else. Look around, interact with that store, and then come back to the store and actually be a patron and help them out as well. So if you keep those businesses running, then they are able to do more things as well. So
exactly. And if you don't want any books right now, buy a mug, buy a coat, buy a t-shirt, buy something, a pen, something.
Mark, right now they're selling stickers, like they're selling all kinds of stuff right now at these bookstores. So just pick something and support them. So that's
But let us know your thoughts in the comments on how the Barnes & Noble event, but also if there are any events that you want to see happening, we'd love to hear from you. Like Fran said, all the big events, unfortunately, Book Expo, BookCon, all the things, they've all had to go away, unfortunately, because financially, it's not feasible. I'm telling you, the book business is a tough business.
Yeah.
Okay. The last big thing we want to talk about is actually about a book con, but it's drama around the book con. Right. So this one is specific to Apollycon. If you're not familiar with Polycon, you know everything you need to know already. Anyways, so there's been lots of things online about Apollycon and children attending the event. Now, like a good classic game of telephone, like Not All Witches, who posted on Threads, said, things kind of get mixed up in the sauce. Now, apparently, and I'm using this person's thread comment because I'm like, this presents it in a different way. So, and I quote from the person's thread, Apollycon child-free drama. Because social media is a bad game of telephone, here's what people complaining aren't telling you. One of the founders of the con posted in the Facebook group to clarify kids are welcome at the event. They average 15-ish kids per year, and the majority are infants. She also stated vendors and authors are not allowed to have banners with explicit content. Lastly, there will be children there regardless. A kids' cheerleading competition is also being held at the venue. So if you're not familiar with the drama, essentially the drama is that people are complaining about children being there. It's mostly romance books that are there. Yes, this event is for adults, aka there might be explicit content. I will say I haven't personally been to a romance book signing. I know Francesca has, so she really has some great insight. But essentially the drama is, should children be allowed? Some people are saying children should not be there. The content is not appropriate for children, but then the organizer is saying, hey, we welcome children. There's no explicit content there, yada, 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 yada. I will say my one thing as an outsider who's never been to a romance book signing like this, I've never had to interact with any of this before. The first thing that comes to my mind is, oh no, we're already fighting explicit content and romance and books being banned and this and that. And now people are talking about bringing their children to the book signing. I'm not against bringing children to a book signing, but again, it goes back to parents needing to parent and then other parents not policing parents for making their decision. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you want to take your child to a certain kind of restaurant and someone else is not okay with it, then you don't take your child to the restaurant, but don't go tell a parent not to take their child to the restaurant. So that's the first thing I think about. But I can't help but think about the larger picture of the optics of, okay, let's bring our children to this romance event. I'm not anti-children going to any event. If a parent wants to bring their child, by all means. This dialogue online, again, I think there's a lot being lost in the sauce. But Fran, you've been to these events in person. Like, what is your experience when you go to like a romance book signing? How do you feel about the whole children factor of it? But also from an event organizer, because I know we tend to think a lot about the business of it all. And then now, having kids.
Yeah, several points. First of all, I have attended a Polycon. The last time that I did go to a Polycon was in 2019, but I have gone multiple years. I didn't really see kids there, but if the event organizer is saying they get about 15 a year, it's not a lot because I think this is a con that gets maybe 1,000 people. So all things considered, it's a very small number. Uh, do I personally think it's a place for children? No, because as much as you are telling the authors that they can have explicit material, some people's covers are kind of explicit already. So what are you going to tell them, not to put their covers, like their books, on the table? Then you of course have the authors that have certain kind of swag, which might have inappropriate things on the swag. So if there's a child walking around, they may get to that. So, but again, parents can, do what they want with their children. So that is just my opinion, but any parent can do what they want. Do I think, from besides the sexual part, do I think that any kind of these cons is a place for children? Let me tell you, it's a stressful and anxiety inducing place for adults. So do I think that that's not going to create like a massive anxiety to the child? Yes. They're going to be bored out of their mind because there's a lot of standing around in lines, and they're going to drive you crazy. So my suggestion, so that you have a better experience, is try to get a babysitter. Not because kids shouldn't be there, but just because it's just not going to be a peaceful, loving experience for you. That child is going to be grouchy. Adults are grouchy. I was grouchy. I mean, it's just so that is a couple of things. I think that you're not going to be able to police the authors and the material they have on their tables, and neither should you, because they are selling a certain experience, because they are writing romance books, and some of them write clean, no sex books, and some of them write erotica, and they're all there. So I feel like they should be free to a certain degree to do that. I have been at conventions where, like she said, there's going to be some kind of a cheerleading convention. I have been at conventions where the hotel does that multiple times. And guess what? Those banners, because maybe those events were kind of like child free, and there were some very explicit things. And then you have the people dressing up for the parties. People are dressing up for the parties, and there might be some sexually, costumes and whatever, and the children will see that. So did I also have to like see that kind of like it got bad, because sure, you have some kind of a convention. I think there was one time there was some kind of a religious convention. And I think it was a Laura Lee convention, and Laura Lee writes like very, very erotic, paranormal, and all of the authors that would go to her conventions were writing really erotic books. And obviously the banners and the stuff were in the hallways, they were in the elevators, because that's what you do at conventions. You decorate the whole thing because you're giving the experience. So the hotel doesn't care.
Well, no, they're making money. It's commerce, okay?
And you, as the person that's running that event, also have no right to tell the hotel what other event they can have at the same time as you. So it's a very complicated scenario, and there's a lot of things that you cannot control. So to put it on the organizer, I think it's wrong. They are already doing what they can. And again, just parent your children. Do what you think is best for you. I think infants is they're not going to be exposed to anything that's going to scar them, but they're going to be really cranky. Extremely cranky in that scenario. So
I think that would have been because that was the other thing that the person mentioned in their thread, is that they're mostly infants. So with infants, I mean, it's on you. You're going to deal with a grouchy child who is fighting sleep and who you have to pause and feed. And not everyone is gracious to people with children, like giving them grace and like let them go, because you don't want them waiting in line too long and stuff like that.
At book events, nobody's going to do
Nobody's gracious.
Like, if you're going with that expectation that people are going to be nice, because they will not. People are going to be assholes. So just, if you're going prepared for that.
I'm just saying, I admire people who bring their children, like their young children, even infants, anyone really, to like even football games, concerts, stuff like that. So look, God bless. I am team always. You find a babysitter, you don't go.
Yeah.
But Again, I'm team parent your kids, how you want to parent. It goes back to the same books, okay? Let me read what I want to read. Let me allow my kid to read what they want to read, and you parent your kid how you want them to be, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm always going to be team that. But yeah, I found it very interesting, this whole narrative online about Apollycon. I think also it's not fair to put it on the organizer. You know, the
No.
first thing that came to my mind when I saw this, liability. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm my husband's wife. He's always talking about insurance, liability. No, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh,
Yeah.
you get sued for the true American. Okay. It's like watching the news and seeing the person who got burnt by Starbucks awarded $50 million and is being sued. So I swear, he's got it in my head. He's like, listen, this is not where you're from, ma'am. Okay, this is a whole different country. So I'm always thinking about the liability. And like, if you're saying, yes, it's child friendly, bring your children. The first thing I think about is childcare, because like the place I go and I do my exercise class, that they have childcare. And I always think about, man, I wonder how much extra they pay for insurance and, you know, just like all their liability for that. Maybe that's why our membership is so expensive. But it's because of that. So it's like, even if they were to say, let's provide this area for moms, you know, and or provide this area for childcare or stuff, I immediately think liability. It's too much. We can't expect organizers, and I know this sounds awful, but we can't expect organizers to do every single thing possible. Because again, they're working with limited means, limited budget. The best thing we can hope for is that they have a welcome, inviting, and inclusive environment that is compliant with disabilities and people who are differently abled. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's the best we can hope for.
Yeah.
Childcare is asking too much, I'm gonna tell you, or being mindful of children, because also it's going to affect the authors, especially the ones who write those kinds of books for adults. I mean, can the adults live? Or maybe we're moving towards a space where they don't want that kind of literature at all. You know how they had prohibition and you can't drink alcohol at all? I think that's where they're going with the books. Like romance shouldn't exist at all, because it's like cottonous. But anyway, I hope the event organizers have a wonderful event, and I hope people make plans for their children. All right. Anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, but we're going to head on over to Substack to continue the conversation. If you're just joining us and you missed out, listen, we did a whole rundown of things. We're talking about the government not doing things, the state not doing things, defunding libraries. It is real. Okay. Boycotts, the London Book Fair acquisitions. That was really fun and exciting to hear about all the exciting books that are coming out. We talked about the Jay Kristoff controversy, the Oathbound release. I mean, people were sharing pictures from their local bookstores and they were not happy about how it played out. And I get it, but guess what? Good news. Spoiler, the book hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller. We talked about the Barnes & Noble event at Union Square, and we just wrapped up about whether children should be at book conventions. Again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you over on Substack, where we're going to continue the chat. We're going to be there for a good time, not a long time. So don't delay. Don't delay at all. Oh, I just got a comment. BK, no, I missed it. Listen, replay. Join the replay crew. Just move the slider back. I'm going to end in like two seconds. So just hit the replay and you will catch all the tea, okay? And then join us, not next Monday, the following Monday, 12 noon Eastern time for tea. But I do want to invite you to join us this Thursday. We're going to be more serious. We're sharing book recommendations about women in history. So we hope you will join us. But again, join BK, Holly, R, and the rest of the folks. Join the replay crew. Watch the replay and let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, everyone.